Hi, my name is Jill Pollpeter. I'm a third-year medical student from Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska.
And my name's Katherine Pattee, and I'm also an M3 at Creighton. Today we have for you a fun, bold, and colorful way to teach pelvic anatomy to the M3 learner.
The idea for this lab came to us while working on a similar lab created by OBGYN professionals from Lankenau Medical Center in Pennsylvania.
While performing the lab, students found that the clay medium was difficult to work with, so we came up with a different option. Our lab is set up in a rainbow scheme so that students can see the progression of the pelvic anatomy and understand better the relationships between them. The relationships are particularly helpful for the student to understand the muscles involved in vaginal delivery, vaginal lacerations, and episiotomies.
This lab is paired with an additional lab to work with students on improving their suturing skills, specifically perineal and vaginal lacerations that may occur during labor and delivery. The new medium is easier to store, easier to set up, and easier to clean.
The setup for this lab is very time efficient, with setting up the pelvis and the cutouts only taking about 45 minutes per pelvis. From then on, the students can set up the labs and tear them down by themselves so that the clerkship coordinator or whomever is putting them together is saved plenty of time and effort. There are a few different things that you'll need for this lab. The first of which is the pelvis, which is the most expensive and runs around $80. But the rest of the materials can be purchased for under $10. The muscles are depicted by foam pieces which have magnets attached, and the magnets will attach to the insertion and origin points on the pelvis as depicted by thumbtacks, which are inserted. There are also a couple screws on the pelvis as well. The nerves will be depicted by pipe cleaners.
Ligaments will be shown as rubber bands which will hook around the hooks that have been inserted onto the pelvis. Additional structures have also been included. The urethra, the vagina, and the rectum have several options for what may be used. We've decided to use a lighter option of foam pipes and a straw. PVC pipes could also be used, but they are a little bit heavier. So to start the lab, medical students will need to identify all of the bony landmarks of the pelvis. Taking time to identify landmarks will help students when inserting the muscles later. So we'll be starting with the ligaments of the pelvis. We decided to only include the sacrospinous ligament as it is the most anatomically relevant, especially for the M3 level. The sacrospinous ligament is shown as two pink rubber bands that can be attached to the hooks that have been inserted into the pelvis.
Now we'll move on to the muscles of the pelvis, the first of which is depicted in red and is the obturator externus. It covers the obturator foramen and wraps around posteriorly to the femoral neck. The second muscle is the obturator internus, depicted in pink, which goes on the inside of the pelvis, wraps around to attach to the greater trochanter. The next muscle is the piriformis, which is depicted in orange and runs from the sacrum to the trochanter. You can see all these muscles, how they line up in the back. Next is the sciatic nerve, which is depicted by the yellow pipe cleaner. There are two of them, so what you'll do is wrap the two around each other to make it longer. Attach the sciatic nerve to the top of the pelvis at the hook and run it down the transverse processes to insert through the second sacral foramen. It runs through the pelvis and then back under the greater sciatic notch to come posteriorly to the piriformis muscle. It then runs down and attaches to the femur.
Next, we'll be doing the muscles of the pelvic floor. The first muscle we'll do is the coccygeus. It's depicted in yellow. It attaches to the ischial spine and the coccyx. The next muscle in light green is the iliococcygeus. It's part of the levator ani muscles. It'll attach in the center to the coccyx and on each side with the insertion of the obturator internus. The next muscle is the pubococcygeus in dark green. It runs from the lower edge of the pubis to the coccyx. It's another part of the levator ani muscles. The last levator ani muscle is the puborectalis, shown in light blue. It runs as a sling from the pubis around the rectum and back to the pubis.
Next, we'll move on to the muscles of the perineum. Ischiocavernosus, which is depicted in blue and runs under the inferior surface of the pubic ramus to the ischial tuberosities. It's depicted bilaterally. The next muscle is the deep transverse perineal muscle, which is depicted in black and runs from ischial tuberosity to ischial tuberosity. The superficial transverse perineal muscle is depicted in gray and runs just superficially to the deep perineal muscle, ischial tuberosity to ischial tuberosity. The perineal body is depicted in white and attaches in the midline of the superficial transverse perineal muscle with magnets facing anteriorly and posteriorly. Next we have the bulbocavernosus, which is also called the bulbospongiosus and is depicted in navy blue. It runs from the pubis and the clitoris around the vaginal opening and back to the pubis to attach to the perineal body posteriorly. The last muscle that is depicted is the external anal sphincter, which runs around the distal portion of the rectum and attaches to the perineal body anteriorly. It is depicted here in purple.
Now that all of the muscles have been attached to the pelvis, we will insert the additional structures. We will start with the rectum, which is this gray tube that is inserted into the external anal sphincter. Next, we will insert the vagina, which is this blue tube. And lastly, we will finish with their urethra, depicted with this straw.
We would like to extend a special thanks to our faculty advisors, Dr. Karen Gray and Dr. Gina Harper-Harrison,
our clerkship coordinator, Tammi Bray, and our administrative assistant, Trina Brungart.